How we doing, folks? Bob Gums, and I'm bringing you the Concerned Forum. I really hadn't planned on doing a video tonight, but I guess I just got so goddamn upset. I figured I got to get it off my chest. One thing that really has me ticked off. Uh, I'm a Black American, and I am a disabled veteran. So that means that there was a period in my life when I put out for my country. Okay. Now I don't want no damn parades or any of that shit. Okay. Believe me, I came home bruised, banged up, but I came home. A lot of men better than me and some women over the last 35 years who have went on these various American misadventures who did not come home. Those are the people that deserve credit. Okay. Also participated in the civil rights movement in my own way, both in the military and as a civilian. Mm. Lemonade is good for you. Anyway, I'm just so freaking pissed. Uh, we have this friend of the pedophile president who basically he allowed himself to be made an ass out of uh, by the Russian head honcho, Putin. And unfortunately, when he wears that title of president, when he makes an ass out of himself, he also makes an ass out of the rest of us. And I think that that is quite unfortunate. But I think what happened, I believe what he did, he basically, what he's trying to do, he's trying to sell out the Ukrainians. Now, there is reasonable opinion that says that the war should have never taken place because of the fact that it was a case of America basically trying to cut into Russia's sphere of influence. Uh, I remember when supposedly the Russian Empire fell. As a matter of fact, I was still in the military when that happened. I was in the Navy, as a matter of fact, when that still happened. And I know there were a lot of people in America, in the American elite in our government, that they didn't see this as an opportunity for world peace and commerce, but they saw it as an opportunity to screw the Russians. You know, hey, we won the Cold War, let's screw them. That that was a lot of that thought going on. But for anyone to say that Zelensky, no matter what you might think of the Ukrainians, they didn't start the war. Russia moved over their Ukraine's clearly defined borders. So that's basically the bottom line. And I get the feeling, remember now, when you look at this, oh, and by the way, I hope you like what I have to say, okay? At least hear me out. If you like it, give a little check in the box there. I had to get that out for commercial purposes. Okay. But my personal opinion, and essentially that's what this show is all about. Personal opinion based upon the facts as I know them. And I honestly believe that some of the conspiracy folks out there, I think they have a point. I do believe that Putin has something hanging over the head of our so-called president. because every time he gets in Putin's company, he's like a docile little pet puppet. And any honest person can look and see the body language, and they can see that, right? This is one of the things that really perturbs me so much about why people voted for this guy, Trump, in the first place. Now, I find out because I really wanted to say a few words about the mayor's race in New York City. Unfortunately, because of the character of the type of person that we have in the White House, uh, how New York City fares in the upcoming election and Donald Trump, they seem to be interconnected. Two of the main characters, uh, former Governor Cuomo and the present Mayor Adams, they seem to be intrinsically tied to Donald Trump. And as a New Yorker, I think that's terrible, quite frankly. Uh, the man is an ignorant racist, um, emphasis on ignorant. He seems to be determined to try and destroy our democracy. So I'm aghast and agog as to why anybody running for mayor of New York, which is essentially an immigrant city. That's how New York City made its bones, quite frankly. After we stripped the land from Native Americans, we basically became an immigrant hotel, right? Starting with who? The Dutch, correct? The Dutch, the English, uh, the Swedes, and everybody else. We have a president who seems he hates all immigrants that don't look like him. And how will I don't understand that either. Since this guy's grandfather was an illegal immigrant, um, his mama was here for in America for 12 years before she gained her citizenship. So, not to mention his wives, blah blah blah. So this guy parades around like he hates all immigrants. I think it's the texture of the skin that he hates nowadays. I mean, that's the impression that he gives. But I'm wondering if you voted for that, how should I feel towards you? I happen to be African American, but I'm just wondering. You vote for a guy that seems to want to hate everyone. So, do you hate me also? I mean, overlooking the fact that I know, according to my mom's family lore, uh, I've been here more, as far as blood is concerned, I've been in America longer than most white people. But I also recognize the fact that I too am descended from immigrants because none of us are native to this region unless you happen to be part of, one of the indigenous people. Now, I know that Donald Trump is out to destroy American history, but facts are facts. So when I see two potential mayors for New York City basically getting support from Donald Trump, and I see a gentleman like Zohan Mondami who stands on his own, knows the issues, and wants to stay in New York to deal with them, what the hell am I supposed to think? Adams is useless. He has to run to this guy, this would-be dictator, to protect him from the Justice Department. It seems Cuomo is trying to get financial help from this president, this would-be dictator, and get it from the people who support him. So my question as a New Yorker is, why would I not vote for Zoran Mandani? How do they say it nowadays? To me, it's a no-brainer, quite frankly. Now, I saw where who was it, the head honcho for the ADL. Yeah, excuse me, I got so many damn notes written down here. But that's because so much bullshit has been happening over the last 6 months. But this guy from the ADL, he accuses Mondani of all sorts of things. I mean, he practically accuses Mondani of being responsible for the European Holocaust of the 1940s. And, I think that that's ridiculous. He lies because he says that Mondani has never made any outreach to the New York Jewish community. That's a damn lie. He's been on synagogues, uh, temples, what have you, Jewish temples, what have you. So to me, I tell you quite frankly, that smells of desperation, right? And the fact is that it looks now from the polls that at least about half of the Jewish people in New York give Mondami his support. So this business about being anti-Semitic, uh, no, I think that dog ain't gonna hunt. Okay, and it's bad because people around the world are starting to recognize this. That because you find serious, grievous fault with the Prime Minister of Israel and with his right wing, what is it, the Likud party and the Knesset, just because you don't like those guys, it doesn't make you an anti-Semite. And I don't go for this crap of, hey, well, some of my best friends are Jewish. That's bullshit too, because people say that about they say about black folks all the time, right? That has nothing to do with the issue. But I will say, as a kid from Harlem, from the western part of Harlem, I spent a lot of time around Jewish folks. We have the yeshiva right up the street from Grand Projects on 123rd. Uh, on Broadway, and you got Yeshiva University up there. I used to go up there all the time because they would have these ceremonies. What's it called, the sukkah and what have you, and it was wonderful. You know, I remember the rabbis marching right alongside Martin Luther King with the Roman Catholic priests. See, so with this, it's like a lot. Okay, yes, black community in New York has had problems, right? Between Jewish people and black people, just like the black community has had problems with Italians, with Irish, but that happens in the city. We're human, right? But as far as this business about, yeah, well, all the anti-Semites who voted for Zohar Mondani, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. You can't, this is, I don't know, it's like somebody trying to play mental jujitsu, right? Well, you're for that, so you're anti-Semitic. It's just like this thing with what's happening in Gaza, right? I think the tragedy of what's happening in Southwest Asia. I only know Africa and I know Southwest Asia. I'm trying to get away and get out of that term, but using the term of the Middle East. Okay, that's something the Brits constructed, right? Just like they went through Africa, redrawing boundaries and renaming shit and what have you. Okay, but history tells us that Muslim people and Jewish people were hand in hand, worked hand in hand. And when Jews were being tortured, killed, murdered, they found refuge in Islamic communities. So this is something that really didn't jump off until the 20th century. And I think that's because you had certain people that felt that they wanted to create a land they wanted to create a land that was already there. And I think that's where the problem evolved from. But listen, just because you disagree with a particular government doesn't mean that you hate a whole religion. That's crazy. A lot of things people don't like about the Roman Catholic Church, right? Does that mean that we hate all Catholics? I don't know. Because I'm a former Catholic myself, and I think that religious prejudice of any kind, or ethnic or racial prejudice of any kind, I think it borders on insanity. So this whole business about attacking Mandami, um, I think it's stupid. Okay, and I see Adams, I see Cuomo out there crying. I see the guy with the used to be with the Guardian Angels, whatever the hell he's doing out there. I have no freaking idea because his time is long past. And I also hear about Mandami being attacked because he's a socialist, a democratic socialist. Key word, democratic. Number one, I'll tell you quite frankly, um, being a member of DSA of New York myself, as well as a registered Democrat, I think that democratic socialists are a hell of a lot more democratic than today's Republican Party. Actually, there's no such thing as a Republican Party anymore. It's a MAGA party. It's a Trump party. But there ain't a damn thing Republican about this party. And I think I know better than most people, than most Republicans, because I grew up in the Republican Party. And I'm sure I have mentioned many times during this show that my parents were Republican Party activists in the black community. My old man ran for the assembly in Harlem as a Republican. He was vice president of the Morningside Heights Republican Club. And I mean, I know the whole drill. And to try and link this congregation of ignoramuses and bigots with the Republican Party of Eisenhower, uh, Dukes, Bob Dole, people like that. And even though Nixon was not my cup of tea, I would say, yeah, even Nixon would not have a place in this Republican Party. Even, I know somebody saying, what about Reagan? Uh, I'll put it to you like this. I think that Ronald Reagan was a better president and a better man the last year or so that he was president, quite frankly. Um, some people might say, well, he was not as sharp as he was when he went in 80, but I think that he was a bit more thoughtful. Um, he was more thoughtful when he was leaving the White House than when he went in. So I will say that for him. Uh, Same thing with Bush Senior, right? Wasn't my cup of tea either, but I had my respect for the man. But it seemed like after that, all these little grubs that became MAGA, they eventually overwhelmed the Republican Party. I guess they didn't like that title Party of Lincoln, because the Republican Party of the day, it's a MAGA party. It is not the Party of Lincoln. Okay. Um, so I when people talk about, oh, well, Madami is the socialist and blah blah blah, I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. So what? It never fails, right? It never fails. If you're doing something for corporations, if you're doing something for the wealthy, it's okay. It just passes on without saying. But if you are actually trying to come up with concrete ideas to help the working class, all of a sudden the walls they fall down upon you. And that's what's happened to Mandami. Mandami has made two mistakes. He has proven that he is about helping the working class in New York, number one. And number two, when he made that statement, that he was not going to go anywhere if he got elected, that he was going to stay in New York and work on the problems that we have in New York. And all those other candidates who, when they were asked that question, well, the first thing I'm going to do is go to Israel. I mean, what the hell is this? You just won the Super Bowl, so you want to go to Disney World? I mean, come on, man. If you're lucky to become mayor, why would the first thing that you do is to go to Tel Aviv? I don't get that. I really don't. And Mondani said that. And he's been catching hell ever since. But you know something? I would support a guy or gal that goes out and catches hell for saying the right thing. And I say it's about time. I also want to have somebody there that when Trump feels like he wants to expand his dictatorship from DC to New York, I want to know that we have a mayor that's going to have the backbone to say, no, this line you shall not cross. And if you do, there will be some type of consequences, legally, right? Politically, etc. Uh, just like, what's his name, Newsom out there in California, and that young lady from Texas, right? The ones who the Republicans, they're trying to, kill her district because she speaks out. And I tell you quite frankly, I would love to talk about Mr. Mondami all evening, but there are so many other pressing things that are related to what's happening here in New York. And that is that you have a man and a party that are basically trying to destroy our democracy. And people need to speak out, okay? Need to speak out. What is that? Evil triumphs where good people do nothing? Well, that's what we have here. A lot of people, look, I'm not gonna hold your clientele, um, because I know a lot of you because I look at the internet all the time and I see all these people crying out Trump. Well, I'm sorry you voted for Trump too, but I think it's a good time that Americans ask themselves, well, why do we do the things we do? And I tell you, maybe because I'm getting a little older, but it bothers me that we have a guy that, when asked, He talks about the most notorious child molester in modern American history, Epstein. And we find, we see that this guy was, our president, and this guy was best friends, like the same type of women. Except, as you said, Epstein liked them a little younger. What that means, I don't know. It's also come to my attention that in 2016, right before the election, Trump was getting slammed for a rape of a teenage girl, but somehow that was made to disappear. Did he do it? I don't know. I wasn't there. But I have to tell you, it looks mighty damn suspicious. Um, oh, and if you want to talk about Trump derangement syndrome, well, let's see now. Trump derangement symptom. In other words, you have an unreasoning dislike or hatred for a particular person. No, let's see now. Why? Why would that be? Why would that be? Now, I've been watching this guy, and I'm a native New Yorker. I think I've said that enough. Okay, believe me, that's probably my biggest claim to fame. When they plant me 6 feet under, it'll probably be in my tombstone. He was a native New Yorker. Okay, and I'm proud of that. But that also means that I know what the hell I'm talking about. One of the big problems that we have is people who get into media and don't know a damn thing about what they're saying, right? I could name a few. But let's see now. The first time on the public stage, Trump was in federal court along with his pop, Big Fred, because they didn't want to rent, they didn't want to rent property to black or dark skinned doctors and nurses and attorneys, right? Don't take my word for it. It's in the federal court records. And they were made to pay a settlement. Now, who else? Oh, yeah. His court cases, 97 times pleading the fifth. $96 million in fraud judgment, right? Setting up fake charities for handicapped children and for disabled veterans. And they were both shut down by the courts, and him or his family are not allowed to be involved with charities in the state of New York, and I believe Connecticut also. Okay? Let me see. 6 bankruptcies. One of his bankruptcies took down Atlantic City, New Jersey. Okay? Let me see what else we got here. 2 impeachments, and this is a personal thing on my part. 5 draft deferments because he had a little twinge in his foot. So while other boys were going, drafting into the military, uh, this guy didn't even have the decency to wrangle away into the National Guard. And if that sounds like a put down of the National Guard, you're right, it is. Because you have to remember the National Guard in the 70s and 80s is not the National Guard of today. Um, Gulf War, Bush Senior, he gave the National Guard their respect back. But prior to that, prior to 89, 90, before that, um, we used to, as a matter of fact, we were learning cadence. The first time I was in the military doing NOM, and it used to be whiskey, whiskey, no good, no good. NG, no good, no good. NG meaning National Guard. And Trump did not even have the decency to do that. He just, because his dad owned the building where a doctor had his office, he was able to pay that doctor X amount of dollars to get his son 5 different deferments. But it's funny because the same kids out of the projects, we couldn't get no deferments. Now, I didn't get a draft notice because I was already in. I went in when I was 17. See, I would have gotten it if I had not gone in because right after my 18th birthday, I would have been called up. But it's funny, Trump loves to talk about us criminals in the inner cities. But generally, most of us served our country. He did. So when you talk about Trump derangement, Trump derangement syndrome, I guess I'm a victim of it. Yeah, with good reason. And if that doesn't suit you, well, screw you. But I think that somebody with a track record like this has no business sitting in the White House. Okay? Um, what else we have here? 26 uh, allegations of sexual abuse. All right? Okay. I know you got, let me see what else. The fake charities. Let's not forget fake universities. Remember? Trump University, where he had to pay out oodles of money because he was making suckers out of the people that thought that he was really running a university. Come on, man. This is ridiculous. It really is. This is the type of trash that you put in the White House. And I would say to Republicans, you are so simple minded or so hateful that this is the kind of trash that you put in the House of Lincoln. Yeah, people really have to ask themselves why they do the things they do. I saw something yesterday. Nebraska, primarily a farming state, and they're like about that close to bankruptcy because they don't have a tax base. The farmers aren't making no money. It's mainly about agriculture. So if the people that do the agriculture ain't making money, where are you going to get your tax base from? And the reason they're not making money is because of the fact that they were kept in business by Latino workers. See? And, those people really either dragged away somewhere or they split out of town. Yeah. And who's left to to work on the farm, to take care of the crops? No one. So therefore, crops gone, right down the toilet. And on top of that, Trump launches a trade war against the world. Well, other countries like China, right? People might not know it, but the so-called heartland, all that, yeah, we're number one in America, good stuff. Hey, the heartland does a huge business, or did a huge business with places like China, Russia, what have you. And China now says, hey, screw you. We'll get our stuff from someplace else. So farmers are really they're catching the double whammy. The people that made their business, their help, they're taking off the scene. And the countries that they did business with and sold to, they're like, hey, look what your boy Trump did. Well, screw you. So what the hell is a farmer to do? Yeah. But hey, man, listen, you had a chance. I know people don't like to hear I told you so, but the truth is the truth. You had a chance. right? But oh no, we can't have that black Asian lady. She can't handle the economy. Well, guess what? You were wrong. Now, next question is, you can sit up here all night and talk about how dumb you were for voting for Trump. Is that going to solve anything? I don't think so. And what I'm saying is that now's the time for you to really sit down or lay down and really start thinking about yourself and just what the hell it is that you believe in. Do you believe in this country? Do you believe all them fancy words that they say? Liberty and justice for all that good shit, right? Economic opportunity. Do you believe in that? Do you believe that I'm as good as you are as a person? I mean, you might be smarter than me, probably so. But ain't I supposed to be equal with you before the eyes of the law? Well, you need to start asking yourself those questions. And then ask yourself, why do you vote Republican? What is it? Lyndon Johnson, he said something uh, um, when he could see the direction that the Republicans were starting to go, turn towards. Something to the effect of, as long as you can keep telling a poor white guy that he's better than any black person, well, I'll change that a little bit, better than any person of color, then he's happy. And unfortunately, the Republican, now MAGA party or Trump party, they have done an excellent job of hoodwinking white working class people. And I include farmers in the working class because those brothers work. Okay. And the MAGA Republican Party and Trump, they have really put one over on you. They really have. Yeah, I know you got a lot of Latinos fell for that, unfortunately, and they're gone. A lot of them are gone. It's funny. Trump has deported some of his greatest supporters. What does that tell you? That's the type of shit that Stalin did when he was taking over the Soviet Union. As London was getting sick and he was dying, and Stalin moved more and more to consolidate all the power of the government in Russia. That's the type of shit that he did. You know, his supporters, how the hell with them? And I take him out and have him shot. Well, we haven't gotten there yet, but as the example of what happened to Latino folks is shown, he is not above throwing your ass out of the country. Period. And it's gotten so bad that even if you happen to be a Latino American, a Latino person, who's an American citizen, like an Italian or an Irish American, you're still not safe, right? They'll bust into your car windows, drag you out on the street, take away your wife. This is what I say to my Latino brothers and sisters. This is what you voted for. It's this mythical thing, a white card. And I pray that my white brothers and sisters finally understand this whole American game. Oh, America's a glorious, great country, but we have our bad side. Just like every other human being, we have a good side, we have a bad side. And you have to acknowledge your bad side and work on it. And that's something that this country has been reluctant to do. That is to have to look in the mirror and face up to yourselves. And this white card fantasy, you even got had a few black folks out there falling for that bullshit. Well, but this time around, if I vote Republican, somehow it will be better for me. No, it won't. Listen, the white card doesn't work for white people. Okay? If you are a working class white person, the white card does not work for you. Look at those places like in Mississippi, Alabama, West Virginia, Oklahoma, Arkansas, right? Look how white working class people are living. Seriously. Look at the bill they just passed through the Republican Congress a while ago, right? The people who are hurt the worst, white working class people, all right? His own supporters, his own people, right? Those farmers there in Nebraska and Iowa, right? Wisconsin, dairy farmers, Trump country, right? West Virginia is on the way out. One more economic decline, and they're done. They are done. In a world that is rapidly changing towards non-fossil fuels, they're done, right? I don't understand, you know, well, maybe I do to a point, but the fear of losing that white card, a card that doesn't mean a goddamn thing. Because what you have to understand is that Trump and MAGA, they don't give a damn about me, and they don't give a damn about you. And that's the bottom line. All they want to do is take this country and turn it into something that it was never meant to be, right? America, I don't think America as a nation, I don't think we can handle a dictatorship economically or spiritually. You know, Trump is doing a good job when it comes to throwing people out of the country, when it comes to putting up a wall, both psychologically and actually physically around this country. And he's done such a good job that so many people are leaving. I'm talking about American citizens, right? That's something else with the media that we have, right? That's something that needs to be spoken on a lot more than it's being spoken about now. People who have a decent amount of cash and an idea of where they want to go, they're leaving. Okay? Trust me, they're getting the hell out. And you add that to the fact that a lot of the people who actually will come over here legally, I'm talking about scholars, researchers, scientists, tech types, right? Technical types. They're not coming here. They're going to Canada, right? A lot of them, especially coming out of India, they're staying in India, right? So you have a brain drain, okay? You have an agricultural drain because farmers can't make no money. In some parts of the so-called heartland, they're burning their crops. They haven't done that since the Great Depression, what, 30, 31? So what are you going to really have in this country? Seriously. If you live in rural America, you might as well be living at the freaking North Pole. Just make sure you have an overcoat. Because if you got kids, right, the school's in the toilet, because most folks cannot afford to put their kids in any kind of private charter school, number one. Number two, what happens when those kids get sick? And you know, kids are always getting sick. And you don't have any hospitals. The hospitals are closing in rural America. You know, what happens when your wife's in the shower and she starts yelling, "Oh, Harry, I feel a little something on my breast." Well, number one, they've closed down. The Trump people have closed down cancer research, number one. Number two, if something happens to a woman, what are you going to do? Drive 25, 30 miles to the hospital? Right? I mean, it's, you know, as an American, born and raised in this country, growing up in this country, if someone had said, yeah, I'm doing a movie about a guy who wants to become president so he could destroy America, you know, say, get the hell out of here. You crazy? What the hell's going, you know, who's going to believe that kind of bullshit? But I see it, and I'm not the only one. We see it happening right in front of our eyes. And we believe that what they did, they played the whole boogaboo. They, uh, Trump, MAGA Republicans, they played the whole old, you know, greatest hits, the old boogaboos, right? Race, gender, anti-LBGT. It was funny because you got a whole bunch of gay Republicans out there. Ain't that right, Lindsey Graham? Anyway, they played those same hits. And then what do we do? On the Democrat slash progressive side, we put out a black Asian woman qualified. Ain't no way in the hell you're going to tell me she ain't as qualified as Donald Trump. And at the time, she was already the vice president. But they kept playing that siren song. Oh, these dark immigrants are, they're taking over. They're invading us. They're stealing our dogs and cats and eating them. Remember that? Hmm? Yeah. And unfortunately, far too many, I would have to say in this case, of our white brothers and sisters and our Latino brothers and sisters fell for this nonsense. They fell for the white card. And the problem is, for especially for working class people, the white card is a figment of the imagination. And that's what happened. You have a guy that says, especially the people that rule America, they don't need nursing home. They don't need hospital. They don't need health insurance. Hey, they don't need warning in case of natural disasters. And after the natural disasters smashes up their whole communities, they don't need help in trying to put their lives and their communities back together. What the hell kind of human being does that? Now, I'm not a doctor, okay? But I listen to people who are, you know, doctors, psychiatrists, shrinks, what have you. I have not heard one, and I've listened to a bunch of them over the last couple of months. They all say the same thing. There's something upstairs with Donald Trump just ain't right. And this is what you voted for. I would say also to my brothers and sisters of all backgrounds in the military, remember your duty. I took the same oath that you did a couple of times, right? As military people, we have one obligation to follow the UCMJ, Uniform Code of Military Justice. And we take our allegiance, we swear our allegiance to the United States Constitution and not to any person who holds office. I would ask you to think about that before the Trump MAGA party prevails upon you to do things that we're not accustomed to see our military do in this country. And I understand about the chain of command and the being orders. Okay, 26 years. I well understand that. But I also understand this is not the German army of 1934. We don't take allegiance to a man. We take allegiance to that glorious Constitution of ours. So I would ask that you folks keep that in mind. And I will also say to elected Democrats, listen, New Yorkers will choose the mayor, okay? That's why we call it a democracy. That's the people's choice. I think that elected Democrats, you have more important things to do than worry about Mr. Madami. I don't give a damn what your donors tell you, okay? The issue is not worth splitting the party before an election, especially an election that is so important as this, where you have one man and one segment or one party who are basically trying to destroy our constitutional rights. That's what you need to concentrate upon. Okay? So I would ask that you work on developing ways to protect the people in your districts. You governors, protect the people in your state. Yes, I understand federal overrules state and municipal laws. However, there are certain things, okay? There are certain ways that they have to conduct themselves according to that law. This business about wearing masks, it is repugnant to every real American. Our police officers do not wear masks, number one. Number two, no person in the jurisdiction of the United States can be hauled off the street like an animal without a warrant, right? And without the opportunity to plead his case in the court of law. And we expect you elected officials to fight for that, even if it means that we all have to peacefully march to the nearest federal courthouse and demand redress. Mr. Holman, who runs this Gestapo called ICE, no one elected him to anything. And in this country, the people are supposed to be the goddamn masters, right? Not some power-hungry bureaucrat. I mean, that's what I was taught in my civics class when I went to school. That's what Sister Mary St. Raphael at St. Thomas the Apostle Roman Catholic School taught me, all right? And that's what it says in the Constitution. So I think that it's time for you elected officials to start putting all these fine words into action. And if it takes going back to the 60s and doing the demonstration thing and standing up for our rights, then so be it. I just said the hell with it, you know. How they used to say, is we would do this or we'll give the country back. Well, they used to say give it back to the Indians. That's an incorrect term. So we'll do this or we'll give it back to the indigenous people, which would be pretty hard to do, seeing as how we slaughtered most of them. But you get the point, right? Oh, by the way, that's another thing that they don't like to talk about, the fact that the idea of a Congress, right, representation, Ben Franklin got that idea from the indigenous people. But of course, nobody wants to give them credit for it. But America, sometimes I wonder. But hey, this is what we need to do. Remember, evil triumphs where good people do nothing. So hey, this is Bob Gums with the Concerned Forum. Peace and blessings to all of you. See you next time. Take care.